Hey, good morning. It's Matt and Abe,
Good morning.
and we're here as a special broker brew, just to talk about the verdict with the Sitzer Burnett Commission's lawsuit and where things might go from here on out. And so we'll try to break down as much as our thoughts through what is actionable for realtors, what we can do about this. Not speculate too wildly about what's going to happen right away. We're going to have to play that as it goes. But we do want to. I'll start, if you don't mind, Abe. I'll start with just kind of the breakdown of what's happened. So there were three lawsuits before this. There's three lawsuits total, and now there's more. But there was three lawsuits leading into this, and there's two yet to be heard. But the one that just reached a verdict and went to trial for the last 3 weeks basically awarded the plaintiffs, who were home sellers in the state of Missouri, $1.78 billion. It's the billion with the B, award from essentially the people that were left in the trial, which were NAR, National Association of Realtors, Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and then actually, I think Long and Foster was actually not the one that was, but they were in there still till the end. They did not settle, like Remax and Anywhere, who were also in the suit. So Remax and Anywhere were able actually to settle the various suits beforehand. So they may have gotten off easier. But the verdict was essentially saying that real estate was operating in a conspiracy, these companies along with NAR, to basically price fix, really, to force sellers to pay more commissions to compensate the buyer's agent. And basically, they're saying this dollar amount would be less if buyers and sellers had the choice of whether or not to cooperate in that sense. And our whole setup is to force cooperation between brokerages through the MLS and cooperation rules set therein. So with those cooperation rules, they're saying that inflates the price of commissions, because you're making the seller pay for both. Whereas if you let natural dynamic forces where say, hey, seller, we want to have someone market and negotiate for you as a seller, pay them a fee. And if a buyer wants to hire their own buyer's agent, let them negotiate. And if you had two negotiating forces and two different value propositions that had to be discussed separately, that would bring prices down. Some buyers may not elect to use a buyer's agent and so forth. So that's essentially the idea here. And I think what we don't want to get too far into is the merits of the case and all the different arguments about why this is wrong and what's better for consumers. I think what's happened is there's an assault basically on the idea that we have this almost like a trade union with NAR that protects sort of it protects realtors away from against disruptors or people that coming in with a better business model to serve consumers, because we've kind of set it up to where you really have to play ball with us or you can't really participate, right? And so that's essentially
right. Yeah, and so I think what's in a lot of people in the real estate industry's mind, a lot of you agents, is what happens from here? How does this affect us? Should we be fearful of anything? What change is coming? And how do we position ourselves to make sure that we're going to be okay? Or is real estate going to change so drastically that we're all going to be out of jobs, right? And we're not going to make any more money, right? So we wanted to address some of those things. I love what Matt said. There's still kind of a caveat here, right? This is still playing out in real time. And so over the next few weeks, months, potentially years, we'll be hearing about this case and how it's panning out. There's some appeals going on as we speak. And after the verdict was reached on this particular case, there were a few more cases kind of pulling in other big real estate brokerages into lawsuit. And so we're not sure completely, but again, what we wanted to do here was address some of the concern, address what we think is going to change, and also kind of give some thought to what we should do as realtors here.
Right. Yeah. And one more point to add to this is that what Abe was saying about kicking years is that the damages, even though 1.78 billion, were actually what they call trebled to where it actually comes out to be about $5.5 billion in damages, which if had to be paid by these organizations, there's no way they'd be able to afford it. And it would force probably insolvency or bankruptcy or something on them. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's ways they could figure it out, but the likelihood is that these companies wouldn't have the money to pay those type of damages. So most likely there's going to be some sort of settling of that, or it could be appealed. And appeals can go a lot of different directions, so we don't know. So speculating on that really isn't, I think, our interest. But just to make sure everybody understands that there's nothing imminent that's going to happen right away. Most likely, there's going to things to play out. And I think you had a good point with like, one of the things as far as fears and emotions, you were mentioning the quote you were talking about with,
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah, with Jeff Bezos. I was just flipping through Instagram this morning, and I felt it was a good timely quote, but it was a snippet of him speaking probably in the 90s or the 80s, really early on. And one of the things he said was, stress isn't really caused by hard work, right? When we're working hard, we feel pretty low kind of levels of stress, but stress oftentimes is caused by inaction, right? We hear something we know we're supposed to like react to or do something about, but we don't do anything.
Right.
And all of a sudden, stress kind of builds in our minds and maybe even cripples us to some degree, and finding less stress by taking action. Right. So I like what you said too, Matt, was we're kind of in a storm right now for a lot of different reasons, right? We're in a new kind of real estate market than we've known for almost the last decade or so.
Right.
We've had a really good run, and now things are slowing down. So it's caused a lot of people to feel this sense of storm coming in. And I love what you said in one of our trainings is if you stand still, right, and you just hold on, you're probably one of the first casualties of the storm.
Right.
But if you adapt and you run for cover or you take action, then more likely than not, you'll find a way to survive this. And so yeah, that's kind of what we want to do today.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think a lot of people have been going through this with the market being down as far as transaction volume and earning potential, so to speak, that people have been somewhat paralyzed by that or distracted by trying to find out, doing so much rabbit hole research into what I can do or listening to a lot of people that are selling products or services based on that fear, right? Capitalizing on that fear, which is the number one driver in selling a product is usually fear-based sales, unfortunately. But that's where I think a lot of people have been stuck in there and they're not taking action. And I think that this now, that stress of inaction, this compounds it with kind of like, now it was one thing for us to have, lower incomes and people, feeling the financial pain, but now this uncertainty of the market being questionable as far as how we're going to work going forward. And so I think the hedging.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to ask, so I think probably what's on everyone's mind is, should we be worried about this? Should we be fearful of this? Right. What's really going to change for us as realtors? And so
Well, no, it's kind of like that when there's a low inventory market, everybody wants more inventory, and then there's a lot of inventory. People go, oh no, there's too much inventory. Now the market prices are going to go down. So it's always like this balance between what you ask for. And I think that right now, a lot of complaints about realtors over the last I don't know, as many years as I've been in the business since 2002 is sort of some of the lack of competency or professionalism in other realtors, and sort of like agents who don't do things in a best practice type way, right? Like they're not serving their customers well, they're not cooperating and working with realtors well. And I think that this type of kind of double hit from finances and then disruption will likely be an opportunity for people who either have or are willing to commit to that kind of excellence of how they service the marketplace of buyers and sellers. And it's going to potentially, it's going to be a threat to people who have not been doing things the right way, not playing nice out there with other agents, or not, serving their customers well. And I think that's where, if there's a lot of things that still exist, let's say, and I don't want to call this worst case scenario, because maybe for some people it's worst case, some people it's not. I'll just say most extreme scenario would be that NAR goes away. Like National Association of Realtors is no longer kind of the one that's organizing real estate. And then that leaves a void for who is going to come in and organize real estate. And if that happens, there's still state laws that mandate our behavior. We still have to present every offer we receive. We still have to have a fiduciary duty to our clients. There's still rules by which we follow that are in the consumer's best interests, and that will be policed if we're not. So I think that there's not, like a lot of people talk about going back to the Wild West, and I think that we're not, I think everybody would agree that, and especially in California, but in other states too, there's no way that we're going to be in a less regulated world going forward, I think. So I think Wild West wouldn't be the right way to say it. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to see new models come into organized real estate. It could be the portals like Zillow. It could be like, more non-competing portals, meaning people that are actually trying to facilitate organization in real estate, not trying to pick winners and losers. And so what I mean, like homes.com, which is owned by CoStar, might be a great candidate for that because they believe in the your listing, your lead type principle. They're not going to take your listing and then sell it to other agents to be able to get buyers from your listing right online like Zillow does. And whether you believe in that or not, the point is there might be need to have some neutrality, I think, in the company that's going to really get everyone to buy in to give their listings. So we'll see that happens. But either way, what I'm trying to say is we're still going to be in an environment where cooperation between agents is still going to be the better way to go, because you want the marketplace you want agents to be able to bring their buyers and their clients to the same listing and compete over price. That's good market pressure to drive to keep sellers. And that's an honest, no matter whether it's realtors or any other organization, bringing more people to a listing to bid on it is going to be better for the seller, right? And then having buyers represented by someone with their best interest is also still going to be in the consumer. So the consumer is still going to hopefully, I think, win out, whether it's organized by National Association Realtors or some private enterprise that like a homes.com or Zillow or someone like that. So I think that we're still kind of the last mile expert that needs to be the people that bring everything together and bring things home. And I think that kind of leads me maybe to some of our thesis on what agents can do right now to protect themselves and to make sure they thrive. And that's a controlling the inventory, right? Like being able to have listings would be number one, right?
Right.
Which
and I'll add to that what I think probably one of the fears out there that is in agents' minds is, hey, will we even be like incentivized to represent buyers? Will there be some pay for us as we represent buyers? And I think the answer to that is yes, maybe, right? And really, it's a yes if you bring what we've been talking about all along, true value to a client,
right.
On the buy side, right? Will there be a again, like a cooperation structure where the commission is clearly outlaid and whatnot? I'm not sure anymore, but that's nothing new also, right? Those of you who do commercial real estate know that this is kind of the battle we fight with every deal. When we write our letters of intent and present offers, we are also asking for a commission that isn't published or that isn't already agreed to by just listing the property, right? So
and it's very transparent.
It's very transparent.
The buyers see it on the LOI what you're asking for in commissions.
Exactly.
And sophisticated buyers. We were just doing an LOI for a buyer that was doing a $9 million deal or so, right? Yeah. In a commercial deal, and we were, there was no hesitancy on the buyers end seeing what our commissions were on there, and I saw that firsthand. I'm not a commercial agent per se. Abe does more, but the point is, me seeing that, I was like, okay, this is pretty. It was pretty uneventful discussion as far as the commissions. And I think that if you think about it, you put yourself in that position. I know myself, if I was going to go buy a house somewhere that was not in my immediate marketplace, like if I was going to the Bay Area, right? I would hire an agent. I would hire a buyer's agent and figure out how to pay them to look out for my interests, because I don't know that area. I don't know where I should look to buy. I don't know like the lifestyle that the different neighborhoods offer. So I would want that advisor there anywhere I was buying that I didn't know very well myself. And I think most people are in that boat. But that's why you have to know. That's why you have to bring value. I wouldn't want to hire someone that just was going to show up when I clicked on Redfin to open the door for me. I would actually want to research the agent I was hiring, make sure I had someone that was really going to advise me well.
And work on your behalf and fight for you, right? So if you've been in real estate any length of time, you've had this experience. You've shown a buyer client, and you didn't have a buyer broker agreement in place. You showed them 50 homes, right? And spent the time really kind of taking them around and touring them. And on the 51st home, they went directly to the listing agent because they just thought in their minds they would get a better chance at getting that property. They get into escrow. And then 2 weeks into it, when they run into some hurdles,
Right. They
they
you.
call you and they ask you for help on an escrow that they're in. And of course, you as an agent are shocked, right? How did this happen?
Yeah.
I've shown you 50 homes.
Right.
I spent all this time with you, and now you're in escrow. And without an incentive in place, you're asking me now for help, right? Or for even me to have an agency to the deal, you're asking me for help. And so I know a lot of us have experienced that, and probably still, of course, help their clients the best way we could in those situations. This kind of, again, it addresses that situation in some ways. Maybe the buyer was an educator, didn't know the value you're bringing as a buyer's agent.
Right.
They saw you as someone just opening the door for them.
Yeah.
Or making an appointment for a showing, or maybe if they just went to the open house, they didn't see any value in having an agent, right? Until they run into the actual transaction and the hurdles that sometimes present themselves in that transaction. So I know we're starting to talk about what it looks like moving forward, but there are definitely things you can do to prevent this case and to give a presentation of what your value truly is and what can happen, not in a fear mongering way or like hey, I'm gonna give you so much fear that you're gonna feel like you need me, but to present true value.
Right.
And our hypothesis is that sophisticated people know what true value is. They know what's valuable to them and what's not, right? And now that the idea of maybe our union, NAR, being potentially like at risk of being disbanded or whatnot, or the MLS even not being something we can utilize and work together on, now that true value becomes even more important, right? And really sharing with people what that true value is, I think is much more than you know.
Yeah, because there was a certain amount of protections that it offered from a legal standpoint that really it's going to make all of us have to up our game. Well, I think at Circa, I think we have this, but I think as a whole, I do think that there's not going to be as much protection if agents are not doing things the right way. The boards, even though they police us, the self-police, they sort of also protect and insulate us from a lot of the external type of threats that can come with it. So not to be fearful, but the point is, again, good thing for agents who do things the right way, and good thing for brokerages who guide their agents and look out for their agents to make sure they're doing those right things. I think that, by the way, I won't go into the whole buyer broker thing. I've been preaching buyer broker agreements since I was doing them back in 2003, 4, and ever since. And I believe in them because I believe it's both good for the consumer and good for the agent and good for our industry. I won't go into all that here. If you do go to circatraining.com, I do have a course on there. It's free, called Game Changer for Working with Buyers. I made this a couple of years ago. And it's just to help agents learn how to do a buyer consultation, to be able to actually give value to their clients or communicate that value to their clients about what a buyer's agent does and why it's best for everyone to use a buyer's agent. So it's in there, and you can look at that, and that will go through a lot of these points. But I think that's number one thing you can do for sure, is to learn how to have a buyer process that brings value to them every stage and communicates that value so they hire you, and then how to provide that value once you're hired. But that's definitely something I've always believed in, is being hired as a buyer's agent, and to be transparent that it costs them money, whether it's coming from the price of the home because they're buying a retail home that has a commission sort of in there somewhere, or whether it's whether they don't go retail and they find a home off market, they're going to pay you for your services as a buyer's agent. So the point is, either way, you're going to get paid somehow in that mechanism. Now that's going to change now. Now it might be directly, or we'll see how this all plays out. But the point is, either way, it always is very transparent that there was a cost associated with working with you as a buyer, whether it was a subtle kind of hidden cost or if it was a real like in their face cost. But the point is, there's a cost, and we were never hiding that with our buyers. And so that's one thing. But I think the inventory part, I've always, if you look at the statistics for seller online leads and sellers closing from an online lead source, it's always been very low and trails the buyers. Buyers are easier to capture online because they're going there to shop. Sellers are not. Sellers are much more wanting to know things about what I need to do to fix up my house, get it ready, what's it worth, a lot of different things that they need to consider before they decide to make the move. And so they're more likely to look for a referral or to reach out to the person they perceive as their neighborhood expert. than they are, or if it's timely, meaning someone proactively knocks on their door or cold calls them right when they're thinking about this process, that's also happens. But online lead sources. So the point I'm trying to make here is that being able to, and I said control earlier, I don't mean control and I want that to be misconstrued. What I mean by this is create your own inventory of going out and getting listings for yourself and your business. That's what we're all going to be competing over now, is listings. And I really believe that agents have an advantage if they work in their communities and if they work with their SOI in a close way and do it right. There's the cost of acquisition of seller leads for online companies is so high based on the fact that we're boots on the ground. We're there. We're the ones with the relationships in the communities and with the people we know and that trust us. I joked one time with an online lead company rep said, he said, we own the customer. I said, no, you own the online lead, but we own the customer as far as relationships. Like, we are the people that know the people in the communities that know. And I feel like the opportunity is really in going after making sure you're just doing everything really well in those spheres, in the geographical farms, in your personal farms, to make sure that you have those relationships very close to you, and it'll be very hard for these companies to come in and
Right.
It get in the way of our listings that way.
Prior to the internet, it was always somewhat like that, right? There was no internet, and so you were an area expert of a neighborhood. You knew what houses were for sale or coming online because you were boots on the ground. You knew the neighbors, you knew the people in that neighborhood, and the activity that was going on. I think once we, had this great internet thing happen to us, right? We had information just abound everywhere. Buyers could look online and research all kinds of data they need to know to kind of figure out a neighborhood via like school districts and school rankings and demographic data, or commercial data, whatever it was. And now we generally feel like it's a return kind of back to a way of controlling inventory is to become an expert in an area, right?
Right.
And that area you are so vested and ingrained in, and the happenings based on even conversations with neighbors, who's moving to where and why, right? Who's selling and why, and what people are experiencing in the neighborhood as challenges, and maybe even like great points of the neighborhood that you can share firsthand with people who are thinking about buying into that neighborhood, right? This has become, I think, much more important than ever. And maybe even a return to the old school ways in that sense. But we do believe it's really controlling inventory and becoming someone. Maybe you've worked with buyers your entire career because that's how you started, and it's been a great run. You've had a good 10, you could maybe even 12 years of just real estate deals being thrown your way, your phone going off the hook because people want to buy. They want to buy investments. They want to buy an upgraded home, right? They want to, whatever it is they wanted to buy. So it might be for some of you who've been in that mode to then shift a little and make some investments into particularly maybe a geo farm or a niche of some sort where you get to control the inventory and start garnering the trust of people who would sell.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where, the tactical or strategic sort of model needs to emerge in each of agents' businesses, right? Where they're not thinking, kind of the do things here and there to get business, right? As opportunities present themselves, but actually get more strategic in a long-term vision for each business. And we're champions of agents being at the top funnel, right? We don't think it's necessary for an agent to have to pay other people for their leads. There's a cost to the business, literally, and also long-term wise as well. As far as it's taking away from profits you can reinvest in your business, as well as short-term finances, right? And so we believe, like in championing the top funnel, agents being able to get their own top funnel leads, and that's where I think the strategy needs to come in and these best practices. So what I guess we would urge people to do is to get very much more business-like and serious about a long-term strategy of a real estate practice, right? And the agents who do that are going to win out. We know there's people already there. We all know agents who kind of already have that sort of savvy. And I think that, our mission is to make sure that, we help anybody that comes to us for help to get that savvy, right? To get to that level and to do that. And I think that's where, we see the opportunity for those of you who feel more threatened. If you were to say that you were comforted by the kind of that blanket or that of having NAR there for us, or and kind of being thrown out into like, hey, we each have to now really go hunt more than ever for our own. If that does scare you, then this is the call to action right now, is to say, okay, that we understand that, but take action into, getting serious about how do I strategically make sure that I am, one, having value proposition that's true value for buyers, and two, that I actually go out and try to stake my piece of market share with listings.
Absolutely. NAR, again, great organization for us, right? As realtors, we've enjoyed the protections, the thoughtfulness, even the contracts that are created within each state, right? That NAR is kind of meant to, the cooperation, the spirit of cooperation, and
Right.
some of the rules that govern
The ethics, yeah,
the
absolutely.
ethics, right? That
100%.
have helped us kind of perform well for our clients and protect them. And then, again, there's bad actors, right, in every system that take some of these rules and find ways to not work so hard, right, or provide real value for people, or kind of, yeah, just kind of hide under that cozy blanket and not really be good at what they do. We see it in other industries as well, right? And you could probably think of a few where there's a union involved, and the employees in that union feel so much protection that they even act like defiantly bad, right? Or not do their jobs and just collect kind of the money that's coming to them because the union has set up such a nice kind of protection for them. And again, no knock on the unions. They did that to set up protections for the workers, right? Who
Right,
needed that,
absolutely,
and to
yeah.
champion some rights for people. But people have always found a way to take advantage of some of these things. And so what we're after, and what we hope to garnish, even or it's kind of like to really foster within our agent community, is people who don't do that, right? People who, again,
Right,
we're saying it like a broken record, but that really present true value, right, to
right,
customers, and do their jobs excellently, and help in tremendous ways people set up their lives with their real estate investments for generations, right? And that's something meaningful to us, and that's something we're really after, and that's why we can make the money we make, right? And we feel great about that.
right,
And I think it is kind of a call for people who may, again, have been a little bit more inactive or a little bit more passive in how they treat clients and how they show their true value, to then kind of wake up, right?
right,
And to kind of step up your game and really get better, right? And that is what's going to last you through this industry, not just for this like kind of trying times, but even the good times. You will succeed even more, right? And you'll be able to last these cycles. And so we have this conversation a lot. In fact, even last night at our dinner, we had a couple conversations of this, and it is really kind of, it's kind of sad to hear, but also we feel more energized and excited to do what we do, because we see that agents are struggling in this way, or may have questions about, am I going to last in this?
right.
Should I be thinking about doing something else? And should I be looking at another industry? And they're asking that honestly, even though we're still very vested in this industry, right?
Right, right.
And our honest response to them is maybe, right? You have to get serious about being valuable and
Right.
doing your job well and working hard and making this like your craft, versus something you passively kind of made good money at.
Yeah.
So that's our stance on that. And then, yeah, what else changes? Maybe we can like think of, you said some of the worst cases. NAR may go away. Maybe the
Right.
MLS goes away. The rise of some of these platforms. Will we make, we kind of touched on, will buyer agents still be able to make money? And we think the answer is overwhelming yes. But again, true value. But what else could change? And one of the things we think might change if the worst cases happen is there's no MLS, let's say, or
Right.
like centralized place that then like shoots out to affiliate sites all the info. And maybe one of the things that happens is now we're all subscribers to different platforms, and maybe some of them are a little bit more fair for us who are listing agents. They'll show our information versus, let's say, some buyer agent that pays an advertising fee or whatnot. And so we'll have to maybe subscribe to a couple different
Right.
platforms, and manage that a little bit more. and maybe there is some rise of some platforms that become the kind of new industry standard where not agents, but buyers go to look to find homes, and so we think some of that may happen. Definitely, one of the things we've talked about was we're really worried for some of these big brokerages right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like colleagues in the industry that we're all trying to do really well at and see positive change in. But we are worried for some of them because of this lawsuit, and we hope the appeals, again, maybe go well, for them. We know it's an uphill battle, and we know that some of these fines are really, really heavy, and it's going to be really hard to shoulder those. And so,
and I think that it'd be dishonest for anybody to say that they were uniquely guilty of anything that not every single real estate brokerage could be considered. They just had the biggest pockets, and so they're the targets of class action. That's what they. I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine the other day, and it's basically they just look at basically the biggest companies and they go after them because they know that's the best. So it's like they're not going to go after every single. It would be too administratively impossible to go after everybody, so they just go after the biggest players. So in a sense, they kind of they've suffered the blow for everybody in a sense, right? And I think that's unfortunate. I back to what you're saying about things that could happen. I do think also I think and I'm hopeful that if this does play out that way, that it will kind of halt actually the race to zero, because I do believe that those protections also actually sort of it created like almost a gimme environment for some people, right? Like, and we've all had transactions like this, right? Where an agent is actually crediting all the commission back to their buyers, and they basically just give you the offer and then they disappear through the whole escrow. And the buyers I've had buyers even call the listing agent, to let them do the home inspection. And the buyers so there's people that kind of created this sort of model of just doing really nothing in a sense, because they knew they can get this commission, give it to the buyer, and they maybe take a little bit, but they don't work for it, right? Or there's agents that make all the money, but they just don't do anything to the transaction because So I think that the quality of people who are remaining will be the services they provide are great, and I think that there will be value there, true value, and I think that it won't create this environment where brokerages also are not bringing enough value to their agents, and sort of it'll kind of get rid of the people who aren't bringing value to our industry. I think both brokerages and agents, and I don't wish that on anybody, but I do think that I care about consumers, I care about buyers and sellers of real estate, I care about our agent community as the people who I think are serving those clients in a pretty noble way, as far as the stress involved in transactions, having to be the cool head, having to be the person that takes a lot of the blame sometimes, even if it's not ourselves. I mean, there's a lot of nobility in how good agents operate, right? Like taking on that stress, taking on that I'm having to work on a weekend and evening when I could be with my family, and to make sure that these people are well taken care of, taking late night calls, dealing with just the emotions involved with residential real estate, where you've got the largest transaction in people's lives that are not necessarily sophisticated in understanding all the pieces of it, and having to guide them through that process with a sort of an adversary on the other end who's, and I mean, I don't believe in creating an adversary. All my training goes to bridging that relationship between buyers and sellers through the escrow process. But the point is, there's a perceived adversarial nature sometimes between the buyers and sellers, and it just causes a lot of stress, right? And so for us to do that, I really believe that it does require us to wish for better professionalism, better leadership, better guidance, and not that we wish anybody to go out of business, but I think just making sure that the cream rises to the top, it happens, and I'm hopeful that will be a side effect of this. And because I don't believe that the big companies can squash out the little guys, because the little guys are the ones that have the relationships, and we are the ones that are out there talking to people and care about these people on a personal level as well as a community level. And so we're necessary. We need to be out there, and so as long as you're bringing true value, you're going to be fine. And it's up to people like us to figure out how to navigate that with you, but you're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine. Yeah, and I know there's probably agents who may feel, even as we're talking, like, oh crap, I'm that agent hasn't brought true value, right? Are we saying to you, leave the industry? No, we're not saying that at all. But it really is a time, and almost like a very important time, to step into the role that you've chosen to take, right, as a real estate agent, and as someone that, again, clients that are putting a ton of trust in you, right, to deal with the biggest transaction of their lives. And so our message is, hey, get out, right? Sorry, this isn't for you, in kind of a, I don't know, like an arrogant way or a stuck up way, right? But we're, even amongst our own agent pool, we're saying, hey, let's step up, let's be better, and let's make sure that our value is true, right?
Absolutely.
And to grow into that. And so even our agents that have asked us, our message has been, no, double down. This is the time, kind of opportunity, and that's what gets us up in the morning every day. And why this is so exciting for us is that leading up to this, there's been so much noise, right? So much gimmick, so much, hey, get rich quick, right? Hey, take this program and you get 90 listings in 90 days or whatever it is. And for us that have been in the industry, we know that this is just like kind of like, I don't know, like little trap, right? Little trap set.
6 minute abs.
Yeah, exactly. 6 minute abs, right? Yeah, that doesn't work. So it's just, I think for us, like a really exciting time to know that some of that is evaporating right now. Some of that is clearing out, and even brokerage models that, like Matt said, have been a race to the bottom, where it's really kind of minimized the role and the importance of what brokerages and agents do out there in the field, are now starting to feel a little bit of a break, right? And a threat to the business model. And so we're really excited about that. We hope you guys are too, and that you're finding, like, again, kind of all right, like a new kind of like, I got to get this. I got it.
Like
I got to step up.
Exactly. From like a call to like, this is an opportunity. There's opportunity here. I think, Redfin CEO come and said this. Everybody's trying to figure out right now how to be kind of the aggressor with this kind of change that's going on. How to be the person that's creating the new opportunity versus the people who are on defense, right? And I think that's where that's what we're excited about. We believe that we've been on this true north direction that's not changing based on this. We've been saying we need to own our communities and have that market share. We need to own our SOI. That's the whole idea of Circa, right? The proximity is everything, right? Where you surround yourself, you have to make sure you're the person that's leading the way in that community or sphere of social impact, as far as having that leadership so people come to you. And then, making sure that the community of agents are doing everything the best they can for their clients and bring that true value and having that integrity. So, I mean, we're excited about this. And I do say, and maybe we take some questions, anybody with questions online, but I want to say something you agree, Abe, is that we hope, we do see value in National Association of Realtors. We do see, if you think about COVID, right? What if there was no organized group to make us be, what do you call it? Was it required, or what was it? Services, mandatory, or what was it called? I'm trying to think of the term. But anyway, the point is, like, saying that we were, the word.
I can't help you.
Okay.
I'm thinking too, but
like we were basically required to work, right? Like we were like the emergency cancer, like agents were able to go back to work because Carr lobbied for us in California, right? To say we were, what's the word?
Essential workers.
Essential workers. Thank you. That's it. Essential workers, right? So essential workers. So I think that there are benefits to having an organized body that advocates for us, right? We think that's necessary or important, but at the same time, we do think there's probably needs some reform in how they do things. So we hope that NAR survives this and is reformed to more modern standards, and then that we can figure this out. But and I hope the companies that have been involved, and now there's been more companies now. They basically went after the first companies, and now they've gone after the same lawyer in Missouri has gone after this other big companies in the industry that weren't named in the first lawsuit. So now pretty much every major brokerage now is under fire here, and we hope that they come out of this in a way that maybe requires them to also rethink and reform some of the ways they do things. And some of them have already taken those steps, right? So we know that. But hopefully we can all come out of this alive, and just our practices get better, and the way that we do things, it gets better all around. So
absolutely. I do think also buyers that have worked with some of us in the past, again, I think they would share, if they were on the stand, not to bring up the trial, but if they were witnesses that were put on the stand
Right.
at that trial, that they would have spoken highly of agents and
Correct.
what the
Right.
value they got out from working with the agents were, how they got into homes that were incredibly competitive,
Right.
you know, and how agents have stopped some pitfalls from happening.
Right.
And
Looked out for them.
looked out for
Yeah,
them,
right.
pulled them out of escrows that they felt like, hey, we shouldn't continue with this,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
And so in that sense, nothing has changed, right? We're still doing our jobs the way we want, we should, right? And again, hopefully, again, NAR. I know there's been some shakeups in leadership too over the
Right.
past like couple months, even, but that these systems that are put into place, or these structures, or these organizations that have been put in place, don't get completely spoiled because there are a few bad actors,
Right. Right.
right?
Or a few bad practices that maybe
Right.
are not up to modern standards, maybe.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that we kind of uphold and maybe even improve these structures and these organizations so that people are still protected,
Right.
that people can conduct themselves in a really good manner, ethical manner, right, and that doesn't change, and that just improves. So
Absolutely.
So yeah, maybe any questions that have come up there?
No, we're good.
No?
All right. Good.
Awesome. Everyone's kind of up to date on this, and so I know we got a little time, Matt. I think hopefully we covered most of maybe the concerns out there and whatnot. And again, we'd love to continue the discussion with you. If you're one of our agents, like, please reach out to us even personally.
Right.
We do have this amazing business track thing going on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we've had a good amount of signups. But I do want to encourage agents who haven't signed up for that yet. Please do sign up. This is going to be a game changer. And again, I feel weird even pitching that here, right? Because I've heard that pitch, but we've really tried to craft something that we think is a pretty complete training for agents to then step up their game, right? At the very least. And so,
on a fundamental level, and very organized in a way that helps you build upon the concepts. Yeah,
absolutely. This is developed over decades, right? And this isn't a training that is just like, hey, listen, write notes, and then do it later. It really is come, listen, understand why we're doing this, and let's do it right now. Let's get you set up right now. Let's help you game plan right now. Right. Let's help you put the systems in place right now. And so for that reason, it's a 2-day training from 9 to 3. And there's a small cost to it to cover some of the expenses of like the food and whatnot. But we feel like it's going to be extremely valuable. And so if you haven't signed up already, please do sign up for that. And then, we got a little time. I think we talked about talking about this, but I know some of the agents have called even yesterday.
Oh, right.
About the merger that happened recently. So maybe if you want to touch on that.
Yeah. So we happen to be a brokerage that subscribes to Follow Up Boss, and our agents use Follow Up Boss. And so Zillow acquired Follow Up Boss this week, or I don't know if they announced that they're acquiring it. It's been finalized, but either way, they're acquiring Follow Up Boss. And so a lot of people are afraid of what happens to our data because it is our sensitive customer data put in there. And so I have experience with software and customer data because I worked with educational institutions, and so I had student data and things like that. And there's a lot of clear protections about data and the use of data. And if a CRM company ever took the data from the people using it and took that customer data and used that for any purpose, they would be sued. They could have criminal. I mean, it would not be good. So your data is safe unless Zillow is willing to do something, which I doubt, nefarious, illegal, and setting them up for a lot of lawsuits. So your data is safe there. We know that data is important from an aggregated machine learning standpoint, though. So maybe there's some ways that Zillow might benefit from the data in some usage or behavior in some way that helps their company. But I think I don't think that's a large concern. I think that data still about showing time, and there's some data around there that they probably were able to glean from agent production and agent showing pattern, things like whatever data they were able to get from that. So I think there's always data value in things on an aggregated basis, but they can't go into your data and get a phone number and give that to someone else or use it for their own purposes. That would be that would not be good for them if they did that. So.
And it's safe to say also, this isn't the first time two like tech companies have come together, and there has that feeling of like a little bit of conflict of interest.
Right.
So it's not the first time. And again, we're watching it, right?
Right.
I'm sure there's going to be some releases happening
Yeah.
about the merger and probably addressing some of these questions, but we'll be watching it too. And what I love about what we're doing at Circa is we're not, again, like just kind of like pegged or tethered to one technology or another.
Right.
Where we're constantly scouring the technological landscape in real estate to see who's got the best platform. And I know a lot of people say they have it, and they've always tried to develop this like one and done. I think that's why Zillow bought Follow Up Boss, right? To have
Yeah.
super software.
Yeah, I think we were right. Maybe Zillow agreed with us that was the best in breed CRM out there for residential real estate.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
But it might not always be the case, right?
Right.
A year or two from now, or months from now, there might be a competitor that's even better. And so, what's great about us being who we are, we can always kind of shift, right, and go. Now, not that we're going to do this all the time and create chaos and like just frustration with people like now onboarding onto new softwares, but all to say we're just looking at the landscape and making sure that we're finding the best one for you and the best situation for you. And also make sure that you're protected.
Right.
So we'll be watching this, but we don't sense that threat at the moment.
Plus, part of the excellence argument, and this is something that I'll challenge, and we all do this, so don't get me wrong, I feel the same way, but being able to adapt quickly is always going to be a part of being excellent at business. So if there was ever, and we're not forecasting this, we're not foreshadowing this, we're not hinting at this, we have no plans to leave Follow Up Boss or to move anything else. But if that ever does happen, that's because it's also a headache for us, and we'll take the heavy lifting of that. We always do with our agents as far as being able to help them transition. But at the same time, it's sometimes business necessitates change and adapting, and part of the mindset of a business leader has to be understanding, that's going to be hard, but we can do it, and we're going to be better on the other side, and it's going to be less pain than we think about in our head. It's like a day or two of hard work, and then we're done, and we're actually off to better places. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there to agents. Like, change is necessary, and you have to confront it with optimism always, but with clarity too, not just blind optimism, but with really figuring out, seeing what the opportunities lie and where they are, and to go forward with optimism towards them.
And I can't emphasize that enough. And I know some people like change for the sake of change. It's almost like rearranging the furniture.
Right, we talked about it.
Right. But in this environment we are in today, in the real estate business, in the world economy, right, in political, like, again, kind of like uncertainty and wars happening and all that, like, I can't emphasize enough how much being adaptable and ready for the right change is incredibly important and almost critical to have, right? And so I guess our kind of like charge for agents is, hey, again, don't rearrange furniture,
right?
But be ready for change, because it's happening in real time right now. And it's happening at a much more rapid pace than other decades have kind of presented change. And so just know that this is going to be part of you growing as an agent, as someone doing business, as someone trying to be excellent, that you have to be adaptable. And I would even almost venture to say, if you don't adapt, you may die. Right? And so that's an old phrase, but it's much more critical now to be adaptable and to be critical thinking and to really move in a direction with some critical thought behind you and change in the ways you need to change. And so that's, again, something that excites us. We love being a part of change,
right?
Whether it's like industry change or even change within our organizations or change within individual people that we work with, right? That we lead. This is something that gets us up in the morning. And so we hope this is exciting for you, and that a lot of the fear, again, once you start getting in action, a lot of the fear and stress kind of goes to the side, and you start feeling a fitness for this.
Right.
And so that's what we hope.
Yeah. And I think that it's not an existential change we're talking about, right? It's not, the ocean's still the ocean. The vessels may change, the way we ship our sails, the way that we go to motors or whatever it might be, but it's still the ocean. And the people who are of the ocean know how to still navigate those waters better than anybody else. And that's who we hope all of you, either are or aspire to be is kind of that person that is of the ocean, knows how to navigate it. And whether it's in a sailboat, speedboat, yacht, whatever it is, whatever vehicles or vessels we have to use to navigate this, whatever technology, you're still a person that knows it has advantage. Because you could put me in any boat, literally in any boat, and I would crash it. Right. So it doesn't matter if you give me the best boat. If there's a sailor with an old beat up sailboat, he'll still probably get to where he's going faster than me. Right. So the point is, we're still the people that are able to sail those waters better than anybody else. And so we just have to be willing to change vessels, change how we do things, how we set the sails, but we're still going to be the experts in our industry. So,
Well said.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
cool.
Hopefully that helps. Again, if there's more questions, or if there's any way we can help you in any way, please do reach out to us as always. And again, love what's going on. We're really excited about the future together.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend. All right, now.